If you have to put someone on a pedestal, put teachers. They are society's heroes. The duties of a teacher are neither few nor small, but they elevate the mind and give energy to the character. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. Better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher. Your heart is slightly bigger than the average human heart, but that's because you're a teacher. Teachers can change lives with just the right mix of chalk and challenges. Teaching is the greatest act of optimism. One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Students, don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It is not what is poured into a student that counts, but what is planted. Teachers have 3 loves: love of learning, love of learners, and the love of bringing the first 2 loves together. The art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. Education doesn't just make us smarter, it makes us whole. Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best. I am indebted to my father for living, but to my teacher for living well. A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. I like a teacher who gives you something to take home to think about besides homework. I have learned silence from the talkative, toleration from the intolerant, and kindness from the unkind. Yet, strange, I am ungrateful to those teachers. A good teacher can inspire hope, ignite the imagination, and instill a love of learning. A teacher who is attempting to teach without inspiring the pupil with a desire to learn is hammering on cold iron. Good teachers know how to bring out the best in students. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Change is the end result of all true learning. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. The learning process continues until the day you die. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never cease to grow. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. They know enough who know how to learn. Education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper or your self-confidence. They cannot stop me. I will get my education if it is in the home, school, or any place. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. He who opens a school door closes a prison. Education is the ability to meet life situations. Learning starts with failure. The first failure is the beginning of education. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Education consists mainly of what we have unlearned. If you have to put someone on a pedestal, put teachers. They are society's heroes.
Good evening, everybody. Could you please confirm if I'm audible? Please put a yes in the chat, possible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thomas, for this. All right. Good evening once again. Thank you all for registering and attending this national level online faculty development program. on outcome-based education and application of generative AI in teaching and research organized by the DST Curie AI Center of Sri Padmavati Mahila Visvavidyalayam, SPMVV, University Tirupati, in association with IPSR Solutions Limited. Today, we would like to welcome the resource person, Dr. Thomas Verghese, MSc MEd, PhD, Chair Finance Program, J.R. Shaw School of Business, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, Canada. And we would like to welcome all the FTP participants of today. Now, about this FTP, this is a one-week FTP program with the same timing from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. This is actually our fourth day of the FTP. For your information, please note that the registration for the LMS is still open. Now, to access the LMS, you need to pay the fee of rupees 400. That will give you the access to the LMS as well as processing of certificate. All the participants who have paid the processing fee will receive the LMS access, the video recordings for all the days, and the provision to download your FTP completion certificate. The procedure for receiving the certificate will be informed to you towards the end of the FTP. If any of you are yet to make the payment, you can make the payment of rupees 400 to the account details I will shortly put in the chat. If you are unable to attend any of the live sessions, they will be available in the LMS. We have shared the LMS details through email to those who have shared the payment proof in WhatsApp till today of 4 p.m. Those who have shared the payment proof in WhatsApp later in the day, we will share the LMS access details later in the day or by email by later in the day or by tomorrow. If you have any trouble in attending the WebEx online sessions, you can also join the YouTube live sessions, the link of which I will give you in the chat now. So if you face any issues with WebEx, you can join with the YouTube live session. Now, my name is Sijin Jacob George. I'm working as Global Relations Manager with IPSR Solutions Limited, and I will be the event moderator. Now, coming on to today's session. The technical session topic is best practices in OBE, the case study from a Canadian institution. Now, this will be delivered by Dr. Thomas Verghese, Chair, Finance Program, J.R. Shaw School of Business, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, Canada. Dr. Thomas Verghese started his career as a research officer at a small institution in Maharashtra, focusing on social services. Later, he became an assistant director research there. His passion for teaching led him to the School of Applicable Mathematics at MG University, where he worked with Professor Dr. Mendes Jacob. He then taught in Brunei before moving on to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where he joined the Department of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences at the University of Alberta. Currently, he chairs the finance program at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology and also serves as an educator and subject matter expert at Alberta University in Canada. Thomas has authored numerous papers in statistics and education and has presented at various national and international conferences. He also reviews several international journals. In addition to his academic pursuits, Thomas is passionate about community service, volunteering in his community and church. He is an active member of the Lions Club, holding several positions, including his newest role as Vice District Governor-elect of District C1 in Canada for the year 2024-25. He has won multiple awards in Lionism and is a certified Lions instructor, showcasing his dedication and expertise with the organization. Over to you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can. We can.
Okay, thank you, Sijin, sir, for that nice introduction. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 4 of the Faculty Development Program at Sri Padmavati Mahila Visvavidyalayam in Tirupati. As Sijin sir said, my name is Thomas Verghese. It's an honor to be part of this faculty development program. First of all, I want to thank the DC Madam, the Vice Chancellor Madam, Ardi Madam, and the Registrar Rajni Madam, the organizer Jyoti Madam, IPSR CEO Dr. Mendes Jacob, the resource persons, and all the participants for organizing and attending this, and the organizers for organizing this awesome faculty development program on a very, very important topic, which is outcome-based education. If you recall what our VC Madam noted in her inaugural address, outcome-based education is not just a buzzword. It has great potential to revolutionize the way we teach and what we teach. So over the past few days, you have been immersed in outcome-based education. I think you are already soaked in there. And VC Madam, an insightful overview of outcomes-based education. And Dr. Sunil sir had been guiding us progressively through the various components and the principles of OBE. And when I was listening to his sessions, I thought, I could go back to my courses and even think of the outcomes that we have in existence and then try to modify it to go on. So probably you had been doing the same thing. Reflecting when you went through all those sessions, you probably had been reflecting the course outcomes or the program outcomes that you have right now. And you may be mentally constructing or reconstructing some of those outcomes. So this is the fourth day, I know, as I mentioned, you're already soaked, you're already immersed in outcome-based education. Sometimes what happens is, as the days goes by, we forget what was taught in the first class and the second class and so on. So for my session today, what I will do is I'll give you a quick overview of some of the things that was discussed. I may talk about a little bit about, the learning outcomes and so on. So this is basically a review of what you have learned before. So we all, just to make sure that we are all on the same page when we move ahead. And then after that quick review, what I'm planning to do is I will give you some of my experiences with outcome-based education in the institution that I work. So I'm hoping that my session will be helpful to you. Once you go through these sessions, my slides, hopefully it will give you an opportunity to reflect. Reflection is one of the most important outcomes of an outcome-based education. So probably this session will give you an opportunity to reflect on what you have currently and then try to modify it, rework on it, to discuss about it, and so on. So I'm hoping that you will have a meaningful 1 hour session, 1.5 hour session this afternoon, or this evening rather. So this is what I have planned. So as I mentioned, I will give you a brief introduction and a brief history of outcome-based education. It is very important to understand where it came from, how it evolved. The reason being, once you know the purpose, it is easier for us to connect where we are right now and see what we can do to make, as our madam said, to revolutionize what we teach and how we teach. So one of the things that madam mentioned is great. It really inspired me, and she said it is imperative to constantly adapt and innovate to meet our students' needs. That is why we are here. So understanding the brief history of outcome-based education helps you to connect where we are right now. And I'll give you an overview. And I will also talk about my experience with outcome-based education. So I'll give you a brief introduction about my institution and the program that we are in and what our program outcome is. And I will take one course that I teach so that you can see how the wording is in the program outcomes and in the course outline and so on. And then we'll do a quick summary. In that summary, I will talk about scholarship of teaching and learning, an area where I encourage all of us as teachers to explore. And then if time permits, I may be able to take some questions. All right. So I don't know, sometimes the internet can be a little finicky. So just to make sure that the bandwidth is good, I'm going to turn off my camera. Hopefully that is okay with you. And so the bandwidth will be better. So once I turn, and then at the end, I will again come back for interaction. So let me, am I sharing? Sorry, am I sharing my screen? Can you see it?
Not yet, sir.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I had been sharing my screen and I was talking away. Let me see. How is it now?
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Oh, okay, excellent. So just give me 1 minute.
Yes, sir. I think it's better you turn off your video because there's a slight lag in your audio.
Okay. Just bear with me. I'm trying to get the screen up here. Okay, I can't see the chat, but hopefully that is okay. If there is anything that you need to, you can just stop me, okay? So you can now hear me, right?
Yes, now your audio is clear.
And then you cannot see me, right? I turned off my camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, this is what I have as my agenda. I will give you a brief introduction, and then we'll talk about a little bit of history, my experience with outcome-based education, and we'll end up with for a summary purpose, I'm going to introduce scholarship of teaching and learning, an area that I would like or encourage everyone to explore this. And then we'll have some opportunities for questions and answers. So if you, the image that I provided on this slide presents the foundational principles of outcome-based education. If you recall, Dr. Sunil Jobsar did mention about it. And then if you look at all the components, it is displayed in a circle, or it is illustrated in a circle. Now, the question that we have is, why is it in a circle and why not in a pyramid in a shape or in a rectangle or some other shapes? The importance of circle here is circle signifies equality and unity. What that means is all these components that are listed here are equally important, and each component must be present for the circle to be complete. You take out any of those, then you can see that gap in there. So for outcome-based education to be complete, You have to have all these basic principles outlined. So let's look at some of these principles. I think, again, this is a recall or a review of what Sunil Jobser mentioned, clarity of focus. Clarity of focus, what that means is there must be clarity on what is expected from students in each program. What are they supposed to do? It is not just the program, it is in the subject that you teach, even the chapter or a module or even a lesson. So once you have that clarity of focus, it creates the right expectation and it provides the right direction to the teaching and learning process. In outcome-based education, as teachers, we need to define specific outcomes. And why those specific outcomes there must be clarity in those outcomes, because it gives us a strong sense of purpose to all our teaching and learning activities. The outcomes are defined earlier. Outcomes are not defined at the end. You have to have the outcomes created first. It is defined clearly so that the students and we as teachers know exactly what is expected of us as teachers, as learners, and it helps us to act and strategize well to achieve the end goals or the outcomes. So the first component here is clarity of focus. What is expected of us and what is expected of our students, mostly of students, right? Because once we know what is expected of our students, then we know how to change or how to modify our lessons, our activities, our strategies, and so on. So clarity of focus. The second is design down and deliver up. Now, what is design down and deliver up? When formulating a curriculum, as teachers, we must start with the outcomes, exactly what I said earlier, and then work backwards. So when we plan the instruction, when we plan the assessment, when we plan the classroom activities, so we must have a clear understanding of what the students need to learn to demonstrate these outcomes. So curriculum has to be designed with a clear definition, outlining the expected outcome, and then we expand on it. The third one talks about the flexibility. So in outcome-based education, flexibility means it allows us as teachers to incorporate techniques and strategies to suit our students. You may be teaching in two different classes the same subject, but the classroom dynamics of those two classes may be different. Outcome-based education gives us the flexibility to adapt and adopt what is needed. So, in other words, if I say outcome-based education does not restrict the teachers to use a particular teaching methodology. We can make those changes, and we have to be, as a madam said, imperative to constantly adapt and innovate to meet our student needs. Comparison. Now, comparison means once our institutions are adopting this outcome-based education model, then it is easy for us to compare between the institutions. So moving on, involvement. This is very, very, very important. Involvement or engagement of students in the classroom is a key part of outcome-based education. Increased student involvement. It allows students to feel that they are responsible for their own learning. In the past, what we did is we stood on the stage and then we preached. But now in outcome-based education, once you adopt this, students will have more power in the sense that it gives them more responsibility, more accountability for their own learning. So outcome-based education designs the teaching and learning process in a way which leads to that specific outcomes. I will use another word, exit outcome, in one of the following slides. So it directly leads to enhancing the proficiency of a particular skill, a knowledge, or a behavior of the student. Dear friends, outcome-based education is a necessity of the hour, and it should be implemented in each and every field where development of skills and acquiring of knowledge are concerned. Later on in the presentation, I will show you a slide where there is talk about using outcome-based education even in the PhD program. I will show you a slide later on. So before I turn on to my next slide, so hopefully you have an understanding of how things are going now. Hopefully I am going slow so that we are all on the same page. Now I want to ask you a question. Yeah, no, I haven't moved the slide. So I'm still talking about I'm still on this one. So before I move on to my next slide, I want to ask you a question. Why did you and I become a teacher? I think we became teachers because we are passionate about our profession and we are passionate about our discipline. If you are a mathematics teacher, if you have graduated in mathematics, you are passionate about mathematics and you are also passionate about the future of your students. So we have expertise in two different fields. We have expertise in teaching and learning. We have expertise in our own discipline, whether it is sociology or psychology or commerce or finance or economics or statistics or mathematics. We have expertise in our discipline, and we also have that passion for reaching out to our students. So expertise in two different disciplines. So if you come to your classroom with a passion for your profession, the passion for your discipline, the passion for the subject, then that passion will be translated to our students. You may wonder, why did I say this? No matter what technology you adapt, no matter what changes you make in your program, unless as teachers we bring in that passion to our classroom, nothing will change. It is our passion, our interest, our passion for our students, our passion for our discipline, our passion for our teaching. If we don't bring in that passion to our classrooms, nothing is going to change. But if we bring in that passion to our classroom, that passion will be transformed, or passion will transform our students. That passion will make changes in our students. That passion will instill the passion for the subject and learning in our students. So I want to move on to my next slide, so hopefully you can see it. So we are teachers because we want our students to succeed. So we want our students to be successful. Now my question is, how do we measure our success? I remember when I was a student in India, the measure of success was on passing percentage. We all bragged, our teachers all bragged, 90% passed in HSC exam, or 90% passed in the BSc statistics exam or mathematics exam. So how do we measure our success? Is it the passing percentage? Is it the number of distinctions? Is it the number of A pluses that you can produce? Or is it about how many university ranks that you get? Or what is success for you? For this, I want you to take a look at the quote in the slide. So it says, success in schools is of limited benefit unless students are equipped to transfer that success to life in a complex, challenging, and high-tech future. In a complex, challenging, and high-tech future. If you know, this resonates exactly what VC Madam mentioned. So she said, we want to produce lifelong learners. We want to produce at Sri Padmavati Mahila Visvavidyalayam. She said she wants to produce lifelong learners and critical thinkers who can adapt to the complexities of life in a rapidly changing world. That is exactly what this quote is saying. In 1991, this was written by Spady and Marshall in their article, Beyond Traditional Outcome-Based Education. So this appeared in Educational Leadership. So this statement suggests that achieving success within the school environment, such as good grades, good achievements, is not enough on its own. What it tells us is students need to be prepared to apply their success, apply their knowledge to real life situation in a world that is constantly changing and technologically advanced and is full of challenges. That is what our BC Madam also encouraged us to do. In other words, what this quote is telling us, and Madam said Madam mentioned in her inaugural speech, it is the ability to adapt. It is the ability to problem solve and navigate the complexities of the modern world. That is essential to our students, beyond them getting A plus or 80% or distinction or whatever it is. That is the essence of outcome-based education. So the measure of success means the question that we have to ask is our student, are these students ready to be up and running when they hit the road of workplace? The question about outcome-based education, or the importance of outcome-based education, comes from this question: are our students ready to respond to that complex, challenging, high-tech future? Are they equipped to transfer whatever that they learned, apply everything that they learned in this complex atmosphere? For the longest period of success, as I said, we were thinking about A pluses and distinction and so on. But no, success is measured whether our students are equipped to transfer the knowledge that they learned in life, the knowledge that they learned while they were in a program to life in a complex, in a challenging and high-tech future. My friends, I can tell you, no one else can instill that passion other than you. So how can we prepare our students? The answer to that question lies in outcome-based education. So the individual that you see here is William G. Spady. So he is the co-author of the previous the quote that I mentioned. So this is a name that you cannot forget, because William Spady coined the term outcome-based education in 1988, and he did not come, he did not randomly come up with this notion. This is based on a lot of previous work. So because he coined the term outcome-based education, he is also known as the father of outcome-based education. He has authored numerous books, articles, and papers on educational reform, outcome-based education, and so on. Now, he was not a high school teacher. He did not commence his academic as a school teacher. Instead, he was a sociologist, and he was also lecturing at Harvard University and Ontario Institute of Education. But his ideas about outcome-based education developed in 1970s and 1980s while he was working as an assistant executive director of American Association for School Administrators. So even though he was a sociologist, when he was working with the school association, he realized that something was not missing. Something was not right, or something is missing. So when he started working on making changes to school education, he was worried about two things. It is what the future is going to be and how schools were getting them ready. So he thought that the American education system was too focused on itself. It is not enough on what the students really needed to learn the future. Now, you will understand what I'm saying in one of my next slides. He thought, just as what we are experiencing in many of the educational institutions, focus was just on getting marks and and students passing from one grade to the other. So he believed that system only pretended to care about students' learning, pretended to be caring. I want to emphasize that system only pretended to care about students' learning, but it did not really do enough to make sure that they are prepared for the challenges. Hence, he brought in this educational approach, outcome-based education, on defining clear learning outcomes and also aligning instructional strategies to achieve those outcomes. So as I said in earlier slide, so the focus is on setting clear learning goals, making sure everything in education, like what the students learn, how they are taught, how they are tested, all those work together smoothly for our students to reach the goals. So outcome-based education is not a new idea. It is not a novel idea. This had been around for a long time. If I could say, at least for 500 years. Because these two images are from the medieval period or medieval ages. So there, the emphasis was practical learning and skill development. Mastery, so you can see in the first image, you can see a baker training his apprentice. And then on the next, the other slide, you can see a carpenter working with his assistants. So here, the emphasize practical learning and skill development, and mastery of specific competencies or outcome was the central focus there. So learning was often structured around real-world application and hands-on experience. Now, you will hear these words. You attend any outcome-based education session, you will always hear about real-world application and hands-on experience, because that is the key of it. But you may wonder, then what is the difference between what was done in the medieval period And now the difference is the medieval apprentice program was largely informal and unstructured. But now, with outcome-based education, we have a formalized educational approach with the defined learning outcomes and assessment criteria. And now we have a stronger emphasis on aligning the learning objectives with broader educational goals and standards. We will incorporate systematic assessment and feedback mechanism to monitor student progress and so on. There is lots of differences between the current, of course, the outcome-based education that we are talking about and what was practiced 500 years ago. But one thing which is very important to note is the mastery of specific competencies or outcomes is the central focus. The learning is structured around real-world application and experience. So fast forward. So this is the case of 500 years. Fast forward. There were some changes. Why did, to just take a step back, why did Dr. William Spaddy think about outcome-based education? There are some, or why did American educators, American leaders think about making some changes in their education? There are some historic landmarks in that led to outcome-based education and the current structure that we are talking about. There are some historic landmarks. 1957, and I want you to take a quick, to reflect on what happens in 1950. What happened in 1957? Can anyone remember? You don't have to answer me. Just think about it. So something happened in 1957, which encouraged American educators to rethink about how they deliver. Then student achievement was lower than other developing countries. I will also talk about calendar-defined education model, and we all know about increasing rate of unemployment. So increasing rate of unemployment is currently an issue in our country too, right? In India too, increasing rate of unemployment is an issue. So the American educators thought of revising and revamping their education system because of all these points. So it is a good time for our educational institutions in India also to rethink how we are teaching and what can be done. Okay, can everyone hear me? So I see some messages going back and forth. Am I breaking up?
No, your audio is fine.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. So what did I say about 1957? So in 1957, as you can see from these images, the Soviet Union launched the first satellite, Sputnik 1, into the orbit around the Earth. So realization that the US had fallen behind in the space race sent shockwaves through the American society. So that made them rethink about their education. And there were in international tests and so on, the American students were not doing as well as the other developed countries. So that also made them rethink. And one other thing is this calendar-defined education model. So what I mean by calendar-defined education model is the emphasis is on curriculum coverage over student learning. Many of us are familiar with this. And, from my experience, I can say we have a list of topics, and And if you look at this, the topics listed here, this is from an first year statistics course. We are just listing the topics, like important concepts in probability, definition of probability, classical and relative frequency approach of probability, trial, random experiment, trial, sample point, sample space, random variables, definition of discrete random variable, probability mass function, expectation of random variable, dispersion, skewness, and kurtosis. So what we have here is a list of topics. So what is expected for students to learn is not clearly here. All we have is in a 3-year, 3 months, in a 3 months program or a 1 year program. These are the topics that needs to be covered. The emphasis is on curriculum coverage and not student learning. Now, I want to introduce, I want to bring in another example here. Again, introduction to equation, linear equations and inequalities, quadratic equation and inequalities, some other equation, equations, system of equation in 2 unknowns. Again, take a look at it. It is just the list of topics. It can, probably this is covered in 1 month or 2 months, I don't know, but these are just a list of topics covered, and the emphasis is on curriculum coverage over student learning. So what I was trying to mention here is, because of what happened in 1957, because of students, because of American students achieving much lower than other developing countries, because of this, the curriculum emphasizing more on its coverage rather than student learning, and of course increasing rate of unemployment. So all these led the American educators to rethink about their education. So it is so relevant for us too. If you look at our students, what we are doing currently, our comparison with the developing countries and so on, we can see that our education system also needs some rethinking and revamping. So William Sparry, I mentioned, he coined the term outcome-based education, and it is extension of some previous work. That is why he is called the father of outcome-based education. So his work is influenced by people like, listed here. It's not just these people, but these are some of the influential educators who had a major influence in his work. So Benjamin Bloom, you heard, and you are also familiar with his picture because Dr. Sunil Jobsar also mentioned this. So Benjamin Bloom is here. Basic Principles of Curriculum and Instruction, Ralph W. Tyler, Robert Major, and James Blogg. So these are some of the forerunners. These were some of the people who did some work in education. And as I mentioned, William Sparry got inspiration from all of their work, and he came with outcome-based education. So it was first theorized in 1988 article. So it says, organizing for results, basis of authentic restructuring and reform. This was the article, which it was in 1988. It was published, and it was written by William Sparry, and this sparked the fire for outcome-based education. Now, I want to read a couple of sentences from his article so you will understand the essence of it. So what he said in this article is, most educators know that it would make more sense to operate schools on basis of what students can actually do. That is so important. We must operate our education, our schools, our colleges, our universities on the basis of what our students can actually do. And he goes on saying, but the demands of custody and administrative standardization make this ideal almost unattainable. I helped to develop the key concepts and frameworks of outcome-based education to address that problem. So that is, it is in that 1988 article, he structured, William Spady structured this outcome-based education. So let's look at a more formal definition. So a more formal definition says outcome-based education means organizing for results. I highlighted that, organizing for results. That means what you want them to do. Basing on what we do instructionally on the outcomes that we want to achieve. So whether it is in parts of curriculum or in the schooling process as a whole, we want results, and everything that we do, teaching, learning, assessment, the school classroom activities, everything must be based on the outcomes that we want to achieve. If I summarize it in one sentence, the definition is organizing programs and instruction around clearly defined outcomes. Now, when I say outcomes, I mean exit outcomes. Exit outcomes. Exit outcomes means, as you might have noticed, I have bolded the words exit outcomes in the slide. Why? What does it mean, exit outcome? It is the knowledge and the competencies and the qualities that you want your students to be able to demonstrate when they finish the school. What that means is, you may be teaching in first year. It may be the first course, but the focus or the outcomes of that course, or the course outcomes for that year one or the first year, first course, will also be focused on what the students will be able to do when they come out of the program, not when they pass that course, not when they pass first year, not when they pass first year and second year. Once they pass the program, once they graduate from that program, once they are out there in the world looking for jobs, in the market looking for jobs, they must be able to do what you taught in first year, first course. So curriculum and instruction are to be driven by exit outcomes. Now, you may wonder, why are we focusing so much on this? What is wrong with our current system? For that, again, Sunil Job sir had briefly touched on this. I want to bring in the difference between the traditional education and outcome-based education. The traditional education is exam-driven. So passing the final exam, getting A+, getting 80%, getting distinction, that is actually the goal. And the syllabus is a list of topics, as I mentioned earlier, and I will also show it again. There will be a list of topics listed. And the emphasis is on rote learning. Rote learning means memorizing. Can you memorize the definitions? Can you prove a theorem? Can you memorize it and prove a theorem, and so on? So focus will be more on good marks, rote memorization, ability to memorize the definitions, rather than learning the actual skills or in applying the practical knowledge. So if you are teaching statistics, I will more focus on statistics because that is the topic or the subject that I teach. So when you teach, you may be teaching mean, median, and mode, or drawing histogram, or whatever. I'm going to be through the very basic course. So it's not them being able to calculate it. It is once a data set is given to them, looking at the data set, if they want to summarize the data set, which will be the most ideal measure, which will be the more ideal measure that you can use to describe the data set. So I just saw a message about the PowerPoint slides. Sorry, Sijin, sir, do you want to
Yeah,
tell what that is?
all this presentation is going to be there in the LMS. We will not be giving out any separate PowerPoints as such. So all this will be there as videos in the LMS.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So in the traditional system of education, we always, we are teachers, right? As a sage on the stage, we will be standing in front of the classroom and we will be lecturing. Very similar to what I am doing now, it's quite ironic that I am talking not to do this, but in fact, I'm doing this because the time is quite limited for us. And this is something, it would have been more ideal where we are in a classroom and I facilitate this learning with asking you questions and you're responding and so on, which would be more effective. But for the time's sake, for you have an understanding, then, down the road, you may have the opportunity to work with Dr. Mendes and the IPSR team to have an in-person session in your institution. So rather than being on the stage and just lecturing the topics, are we providing the opportunity for our students to interact? And then, of course, unemployment is getting worse. So these are some of the highlights of the traditional education. But when it comes to outcomes-based education, it is not based on just final exam. It's an ongoing basis assessment that has happening. And learning will always be connected to real life situation. There is always flexibility. It allows teachers to be innovative and creative in designing their curriculum. Yeah, again, as I said earlier, you may be teaching in 2 different classes, but the instructional strategies that you use in those 2 different classes will be 2 different techniques or 2 different methodologies or strategies you will be using because you are catering to the needs of your students. So you have your students in mind and the focus is for them to master what you are teaching them, not just to pass, apply what you are teaching them. And what students learn rather than what they are taught. In a calendar education model, what happens is we have a list of topics and as instructors or teachers or professors, we just cover that curriculum. Whether they learn or not is totally on the students, right? But no, what students learn rather than what they are taught. And of course, it is always measured. There is a measurable outcome, not just passing the exam, not the ability to just recollect what they have learned or memorize and reproduce what they have memorized, being able to apply the knowledge in real life situations. So that is basically the difference between a traditional education and outcome-based education. So if you look at, again, as I mentioned, this is, I want you to see that, right? The syllabus as a list of topics. Why am I showing this? Because I will show you a course outline later on, which is slightly different than this. Rather than just listing the topics, you can see the wording used in there, which will clearly tell you what they are expected to do after they have graduated from the program or done the course. So let's move on to the next one. So what is this? Just to recap everything that we have mentioned, outcome-based education means we are emphasizing on learning outcomes. Emphasizing on learning outcomes means what we have to start from, or the starting point is, what are the outcomes, exit outcomes for your course, your program, and so on. So outcome-based education is in fact really simple, only 2 steps, but there is a lot of work involved in it, right? 2 steps: developing a clear set of learning outcomes and make sure to provide opportunities to encourage all students to achieve the outcomes, all students to achieve the outcomes. So it is very, very important that we highlight on all, because it is, we don't want to let some of the students fall through the cracks. We want to encourage all students to achieve outcomes. They may have different pace. Our teaching and learning strategies will be based on to make sure that every child is successful. So for that, we focus on student-centered teaching and learning. So student-centered teaching and learning, or learner-centered education, is an approach where students take an active role in their own learning process rather than listening passively. So if you are acting as a sage on the stage, if you are just preaching from the podium, then there is no much interaction, and students are passive learners more than active learners. So active learners means in student-centered teaching, the students are encouraged to participate actively in their learning. They just don't sit there and listen. Instead, they engage with the material. They have the opportunity to explore concepts on their own, ask questions. Critical thinking and reasoning is very, very, very important. Rather than memorizing the facts, or as I mentioned earlier, rote learning, student-centered education emphasizes critical thinking and reasoning skills, always giving them the opportunity to ask questions. They are encouraged to analyze information, solve problems, think creatively, bring in real life world situation, and to see how to use what they have learned. So focus will always be on the output. So if you recall, Sunil Job sir had mentioned this. Focus on outputs. Focus on outputs means instead of just focusing on what students are taught, which is input, you have to input, right? You have to provide information for the students, but the focus is not on that. Instead, in student learning, in student-centered learning, they pay attention to what students can do with that knowledge. That is what I mentioned by output. Focus is on output. Focus is on exit outcomes. It is about applying what they have learned to real life situations, demonstrating their understanding through projects, through discussions and other activities. So in student-centered teaching and learning, the focus is on student themselves, the student is on their interest, and we are promoting their ability, or they are encouraging, cultivating their ability to think critically and apply what they have learned to the world around them. So there are several student-centered teaching and learning activities. I know you are all familiar with it. Problem-based learning, think, pair, and share, group discussions, hands-on activities, and so on. And a very easy way is to think, pair, and share. I use that in my class, where students will be given a problem where they have the opportunity to work on their own first. Then they have to explain it to the person sitting next to them. And then each others they explain, and then if it is it's a larger problem, then they have the opportunity to share with the rest of the class. So again, their ability to do where their ability to provide ability to share ability for being able to speak in front of the crowd, think critically, working together. All these learning skills that are needed to be in a workplace situation is all being trained there. I cannot see your chat. I saw something come up, but unfortunately, it just disappeared. So I wasn't able to respond to it. Hopefully, I can answer those at the end of this session. So what is this outcome-based education? Everything that I had been saying is curriculum and content, the instructional delivery, your assessment, the student placement and advancement, everything is based on exit outcomes. What students will be able to do when they graduate, and everything, the activities, everything will be based on this. Okay, so exit outcomes. Exit outcomes will decide the program outcomes, then the course outcomes, the unit outcomes, and the lesson outcomes. So we always start off with exit outcome. Hence, it is called designing backwards. What do you have in mind? Everything is driven by exit outcomes. So it is a critical factor in designing the curriculum you develop. So please remember, the exit outcome must go far beyond your narrow subject matter. All right. So again, outcomes. I know that Sunil Job sir did mention about this one. Outcomes. Very simple definition. Things we can do because of learning. So because of learning. So things we can do because of learning. That is learning outcomes. I want to, just to switch gears here. This is an outcome. Again, you can see where I got this from. The link is given there. By the end of this course, students will have added to their understanding of the complete research process. So this is an outcome of a particular course. I want you to take 15 seconds to go through this outcome and reflect on this. Is it good? Is it bad? What is wrong? I know there is no, we don't have much time for interaction kind of thing. But I will let you, reflect on this. By the end of this course, students will have added to their understanding of the complete research process. So Professor Sanjita said it's not a good outcome. Professor Baby also said it's not a good outcome, and so on. Now, the issue with here is, yes, Dr. Savita said not a clear one. Why is it not a clear one? There are lots of issues here. It says understanding of a complete research process. So is there a clarity there? What do you mean by complete research process? So that's the first question. And the second is added to their understanding. How do you even measure? How do you measure that added to their understanding? So in other words, this is a very vague this is a very vague outcome. Thank you, Dr. Ramya. Yes, it cannot be measured. Thank you, Dr. Muthukrishnan. It's a very vague outcome. So when we modify or when we do our when we create our learning outcomes, make sure we use specific language that can clearly indicate the expectation for student performance. Just saying knowing complete research process, adding to their understanding does not clearly indicate the expectations for student performance. So a modified one is this one. By the end of this course, students will be able to describe the research process. Again, I think in the first class, first session, Dr. Sunil Job, sir, mentioned about the Bloom's taxonomy and the right verb to be used, right? Describe the research process. Evaluate critically the quality of research by others. Formulate research questions. Identify and demonstrate facility in research designs. Formulate a complete logical plan. Interpret research findings. Understanding the research process, the problem with that is there is no clarity in it, right? For us as professors who had been doing research for a long time, for you, understanding the research process is very clear. But always think from the point of view of a student who comes to your class for the first time, or is joining your course, doing the undergrad degree or graduate program or postgraduate program, whatever. So for them to have a clear understanding, see the outcomes the learning outcomes that you create, of course it is for you, but it is more than for you, it is for the people outside your realm. Can a simple layman with, who can read and write English, can they understand what is expected of them? When you say understanding the research process, what is expected of them? But on the other hand, if you are saying, describe the research process, evaluate the quality of research, formulate the research questions, identify and demonstrate the facility in research design, interpret research findings, formulate a complete and logic. So it makes it more clear for a student to understand, rather than having just saying, understanding the research process. So I'm going on to the next one. By the end of this course, students will have a deeper appreciation of literature and literary movements in general, added to their understanding of the complete research process. Again, it's from the same course. By the end of this course, students will have a deeper appreciation of literature and add it to their understanding of research process. Again, as you can see, this is not a clear outcome. It's a vague outcome. And a better way to do is, by the end of this course, students will be able to identify and describe the major literary movements of the 20th century, perform close readings of literary text, evaluate literary work based on the selected and articulated standards, and so on. So this gives more clarity. Don't think from our perspective. When you create outcomes, always think from a student perspective who is reading it for the first time. Can they make sense of what is expected of them? That is the key point when you create outcomes. So designing backwards, I mentioned this, always start off with the vision and mission of your institution. What is the vision and mission of your institution? And vision and mission of your institution will decide on the program objectives. It will decide on the program. It will decide the program outcomes, and that will decide the course outcomes. So as you can see, it is all related. Always start off with the exit outcomes, and the exit outcomes must align with the vision and mission of your institution. So there are five P's in the OBE pyramid, or outcome-based education pyramid. First one is paradigm. Paradigm shift. If you remember, Sunil Jobs sir mentioned about the paradigm shift, right? One paradigm. What and whether students learn successfully is more important than when and how they learn something. So this is the key. What and whether students learn successfully. That is more important. So the focus is not on the curriculum. The focus is on what they are able to do. That is the paradigm shift that we are expected. We want to see with this OBE, with the implementation of OBE. We have two purposes: equip our students with the knowledge, the competencies, and the qualities to be successful after they exit the education system. Again, as you can see, the knowledge, the competencies, and the qualities to be successful after they exit the education system, not after they pass your course. It is not after they do the first year or the second year. Our focus is what they can do out there in the job market, out there when they are working. And structure and operate schools so that the desired outcomes are achieved or maximized for all students. Now, this is something we have to understand. All students, and all is emphasized. Yes, many of us have very smart students, students who are, mediocre, and students who are struggling in their learning. So the outcome-based education will provide us the flexibility to cater to everyone. And when we design assessments which are authentic, assessment which are basically mimicking what students will be able to do outside, it will help students succeed. If not everyone will be able to memorize everything. It is very, not everyone will have that ability. That was our focus before. Now our focus is everyone to be successful. So what changes, what can we make in our assessment? What changes can we make in our teaching? What changes can we make in our classroom environment to make all students successful? Again, I'm not forgetting the fact that there are some extremely smart students. There are some students who are mediocre, and there are some students who are having challenges in learning. But what the purpose of outcome-based education is to make sure that all students are successful. And there are three premises. So one paradigm, two purposes, and three premises. So what are the three premises? It's the acknowledging that all students can learn, but they are not in the same way, same time. We are accepting that fact. It's exactly what I mentioned earlier, right? All students can learn, but they may not learn in the same way. So how can we modify our instructional strategies? How can we modify our authentic the assessments? And how can we make sure that everyone is successful? And one thing you have to understand, it's the same thing for us too, right? Successful learning breeds more successful learning. If we are confident in one thing, that will encourage us to try out something else. So again, as I said, at the start, as a passionate instructor, when you are coming into your classroom, are you motivating even the most unmotivated student in your class to try their very best? And what support can you provide as an instructor? There is some, I mean, of course, Shaila madam, I totally understand that is a challenge, right? Motivating the unmotivated is certainly a challenge. I totally understand that. But one thing we have to understand, students don't care how much we know unless they know how much we care. There are so many students I have experienced. There are so many students says, I hated stats, but because of you, I'm willing to try it out. So are we bringing in that care into our classroom? With larger classrooms, it is not that easy. I'm not saying it is not a challenge or it is an easy walkover. I am in the same situation like you are in. All those challenges you are experiencing, I'm experiencing that as well. I'm not immune to any of those challenges you are mentioning. But again, as I said, can we go an extra mile? Can we walk an extra mile to make sure that our students are successful? Don't forget, we are as instructors, we are as teachers, not just to get a salary. We are teachers because we have a passion for our subject. We have a passion for the teaching and learning, and we have a commitment to our country. We have a commitment to our future generation. And schools control the conditions, and the third premise is schools control the conditions that direct learning. So what are the changes that you can make, right? Can you have extra tutoring sessions, or can you provide extra help for writing? Are there some other opportunities to encourage students, motivate students? So as an institution, what additional help can be provided? And then 4 principles we have already mentioned: the clarity of focus, expanded opportunities, that is support for learning success, high expectation. The high expectation is we are expecting that all students can succeed, and raising the bar. And design down, I already talked about it. And 5 practices, again, I mentioned briefly. Define the outcomes, you design your curriculum, deliver your instruction, sure you document the results, and then always determine the advancement. Now, this is not a one-time shot. This is a continuous process. You learn from your mistakes and you move on. Make changes in your curriculum, make changes in your assessment, make changes in your teaching strategy. It is not a one-time shot. There needs to be a continuous process and continuous improvement of the things that we are doing. Otherwise, we will not be successful and we will not reach what we want to achieve. So I want to share with you some of my experiences. I teach in Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. So this is our institution is a polytechnic institution. So we have a polytechnic model of education is what we have. So in this polytechnic, our education is 8th on Canada's top 50 research colleges. So this is similar to an institute of technology, or you could say University of Applied Sciences. So here in our institution, we are a leader in technical training, applying education. So we have diplomas, degrees, certificate, and IT, engineering, technology, business, health sciences, culinary, and so on. So at our institution, everything that we do is focused on giving students the skills needed to build strong future. We do have relatively smaller class size, and there is a commitment to provide hands-on practical education. So what we do is we constantly, I will talk about it again, we constantly review and revise our curriculum to meet the needs of the employers. So industry is in fact a partner in all that our institution does. We have almost 120 credit programs. Credit program means degrees, diplomas, certificate courses, and so on. 120 programs. In 2023, there were almost 16,000 students enrolled in credit program, and then 7,000 plus students in apprentice training. So we always say that we are relevant and responsive to the needs of our province or our state. So we look at what is needed in our state, what are the employment skills that are needed to our students, and how can we provide those skills needed for our students to be successful in what they do. So the vision is a meaningful career, vibrant communities, supporting competitive industries, transformative polytechnic education. I saw your question, and in probably in one of my next slides that is answered. So to be a little more clearer, our vision is, as I said, we are leaders in experiential learning with an unmatched connection to industry. So we develop student competencies by applying knowledge to practice in real world challenges. We have a technology focus in teaching and also in business. Our staff are industry experts with a passion for their chosen fields. What that means is many of our instructors have CFA, you know what CFA is, CPA, and all other industry designations. And they also had been working in the industry for a long time. So with the industry designation, working industry, because they are passionate about teaching, they come and teach for us. So staff are industry experts. So once we have industry experts, it is easier for our students to understand what is expected of them. And this is a polytechnic model of education. I will talk about that polytechnic model in a minute. I have another slide here. So meaningful careers for our learners and fuels the economic engine for our province. Remember, one of the basic premise, the outcome-based education was introduced, or one of the primary reasons why outcome-based education was introduced is because there was increasing unemployment in America, right? That was one of the reasons. So we provide opportunities for our students to be successful in the workplace and get jobs. And we are intensely focused on creating a prosperous Alberta, and of course, Alberta is the province or the state that we are in. So currently we have 5 schools. It is a school of business, J.R. Shaw School of Business. So we harness the power of polytechnic, providing relevant multidisciplinary business education. Then we have a School of Applied Sciences and Technology. So there are degrees, 2-year diploma and 1-year certificate program. Same with the J.R. Shaw School of Business, we have degree, 4-year degree, 2-year diploma and 1-year certificate program. School of Health and Life Sciences, and also School of Skilled Trade. There is also a totally different wing where applied research happening. But I did not include here because I wanted to more focus on the schools rather than research. So use of OBE to ensure that our curriculum is relevant to the needs of industry. Along with OBE, we also use experiential learning strategies, and also we have industry experts teach. I will talk about that also in a minute. I want you to watch this. Hopefully I can share this just with me. Can you hear? Can you see what is in here?
No, not yet.
Oh, so I'm not sharing it yet.
Yes, now visible.
Okay.
So are you presenting now? Yes, please wait. I think sir is having slight issue with his network.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. Trying to come back to the slide that we were in. So what I meant to say is, yeah, sorry about the interruption. What I meant to say is everything that we do is related to industry, and everything that we do is we will make sure that our students are capable or have the knowledge and the skills and the competencies that they will need when they are out working. So along with outcome-based education, we use experiential learning strategies, mimic what is happening out in the industry. If you are a financial analyst, we have the opportunity for students to practice it. As I said earlier, industry experts are the ones who are teaching. They know exactly what is happening in the industry. We bring in guest speakers and so on. I have a list of certain things in coming. So along with outcome-based education, and there is a lot of overlap between polytechnic education and outcome-based education. What we teach, our curriculum is created through consultation with industry, and it reflects the best practices and emerging best practice. So outcome-based, the outcome of learning is directly linked to what students will be required to do once they complete the industry, once they are employed in the industry. And career and essential skills, I think Sunil Jobs are also mentioned about this, like communication, collaboration, professionalism, and so on. I think, again, there is some network issue. I will try to off my video. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, okay, good. So career essential skills, right? Communication, collaboration, professionalism, problem solving, career awareness. So don't forget, we employ those student-centered teaching opportunities in our classroom. We are providing them opportunities to improve all these skills, right? They do have communication skills, they do have collaboration skills, they do have problem solving skills, but we are enhancing it, um, uh, created with industry, meaningful assessment, and so on. And how we teach, as I said, again, this is a case study from a Canadian institution, right? So we are taught by experts. Our instructors have relevant and current practical industry experience. So hands-on learning, whether in classrooms, online environments, shops, labs, workplace, or learn by doing what they will be doing in the workplace. For example, in our program, we do have something called student managed investment funds. So this is actually $50,000 plus available for students. I mean, we are not going to give them $50,000 right away. No, it is under the supervision of a faculty advisor. So students make a decision on where to invest this money. So it is not just randomly choosing. So they do have different sectors. There are, there are a group of people who do some sort of research in the industry sector. There are people in the health sector or energy sector, and so on. So what they do is they identify stocks where, or investment opportunities where they could invest the money. So they have to come up with the companies they would like to invest in. And they can't randomly come up with this. So they look at the financial statements, they do technical analysis, they do fundamental analysis. And with all those research, they bring it back to the larger group saying, yes, our group is proposing this particular industry to invest in. This is the amount that we want to go in. And why did we choose is because of these three reasons. And we know that this is going to happen in the future. So they must be able to convince the rest of the group, and then collectively they make this decision, hands-on experience. And we send our students to case challenges. So there are national and international case challenges, case competitions that happen. So we send our students. So during sending them there, we have to provide the coaching, the training. Sometimes it is 1 month, sometimes it is 2 months. There will be rigorous training provided to the students. The faculty take time. We are not paid for that, but they take time because we do have a responsibility. Along with the teaching, we do have other responsibilities, research and community service and so on. So we do take time to help our students, prepare them, and we send them. So industry relevant experience, hands-on learning. And we use industry relevant technology. So what is out there, what is needed. So we make challenges, we make changes accordingly. And NATE teaches its instructors how to teach so they can translate their industry experience to sound instructional practices. Not everybody comes with an education background, right? So we make sure that all of our instructors, teachers, professors, they do have teaching, basic knowledge of teaching, like classroom management, authentic assessment, some of the basic premises of what an instructor must know. So we provided that. So NATE instructors are professionals who engage in ongoing learning about industry and in instructional practice. So the program that I am in is J. Ashraw School of Business. So I work there as the chair of the finance program. We do have multiple programs, and I will show you which those programs are. So I look after the finance program. So at the J.R. Shaw School of Business, our dynamic programs are designed to equip you with the skills, the knowledge, the hands-on experience essential for success in today's rapidly evolving business landscape. So whether you are aspiring to become a visionary entrepreneur, a strategic marketer, a financial expert, or an organizational leader, J.R. Shaw School of Business offers a diverse range of cutting-edge programs tailored to meet your ambitions. So this is the vision of the, I showed you the vision of NATE as an institution, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology as an institution. But this is the vision of our school. So the programs, the course are all aligned with this. So these are the programs. We have accounting and analytics, entrepreneurship and innovation, finance, general business studies, hospitality management, human resource management, management marketing, supply chain management, technology management and leadership. So we do have Bachelor of Business Administration, diploma, certificate, and Bachelor of Technology. So as I said, it starts off vision of the institution, then vision of the school, and this is the vision of the program. The graduate profile is this. They will be able to apply the foundational knowledge and skills in general business with a practical focus towards financial planning, credit management, and investments for a career in financial services. See, the outcome, the exit outcome is so clear, right? Graduates will provide value by demonstrating the ability to work collaboratively and ethically with the clients and colleagues in the assessment of financial management issue and solution. And they will demonstrate effective communication skills, a working knowledge of basic computer applications for business. So all the courses that we have will be aligned in one way or other. It will all be aligned with the vision for the program. So the program outcomes, so analyze financial and non-financial data, apply the basic legal framework for business and personal related matters in Alberta, demonstrating ethical practices and professional conduct, explain to stakeholders investment and credit management processes and impact of the extraordinary regulatory and economic environment, use of relevant emerging technology in financial service industry, develop a relationship with clients using interpersonal skills to achieve business objectives. So as you can see in all these program outcomes, it is so clear, and always think about the verb that is used, right? It is very clear, being able to explain, apply the basic legal frame, analyze financial and non-financial data, develop a relationship with the clients, use relevant technology. So you can see all these are action verbs. It is not unclear, it is not vague, it is measurable, and these are all action verbs. This is the course outcome of a first year course. Very first year. We offer it in the second year. It's an introductory statistics course. This has some prerequisite. Students must have taken business mathematics and some other courses so that they have the basic understanding and knowledge to be successful. So here, look at all the outcomes. Evaluate business information using descriptive statistics and graphical methods. So in other words, if a data set is given to them, they know how to use descriptive statistics and graphical methods and to evaluate that data. So is it a normally distributed, not or a skewed distribution? If it is skewed distribution, what descriptive statistics are applicable, how, and so on. So describing the data using or evaluating the business information using descriptive statistics and graphical methods. solve probability problems, estimate population mean, perform various hypothesis tests, conduct simple linear regression. See, it is not a list of topics, right? Mean, median, mode, variance, standard deviation and variance, binomial distribution, Poisson distribution, hypergeometric distribution, test of hypothesis for mean, linear regression, and correlation. That is not, it is not a list of topics. It is very clearly indicated what is required of our students. So even if they have absolutely no understanding of statistics, so they know these are the topics to be covered. And again, we make it a little more clearer. Be more clearer. So it clearly says, evaluate business information using descriptive statistics and graphical methods. Use graphs, again, use graphs, charts, numerical summary measures to analyze and interpret data. Interpret data types. Use MS Excel to, Microsoft Excel to summarize qualitative data. Calculate appropriate. Look at all the verbs that we are using it. And so evaluate business information using descriptive statistics and graphical methods, which I mentioned here, is further explained and students know exactly what they are to. Let's look at the next one. It says solve probability problems and problems based on specific probability distribution. Again, it talks about describe and identify various types of events in probability. Use probability terms and concepts to describe, again, look at the verb there, describe. Apply various rules to calculate probabilities. Use the properties to solve a business decision problem. So all these action verb makes it clearer and clear. Now, when I send, if let's say the student is graduating from our program and they want to go to another institution, when I send this course outline, the other institution knows exactly what our students have learned. Instead, if I have listed a topic like linear inequalities or whatever, as I showed in an earlier, how would they know what exactly these students know? Here, with this clear outcome, with all these action verbs, it's so clear that students have covered this and they are also able to do this, right? Describe the features of various sampling techniques, construct and interpret confidence interval. So not only they have to construct a confidence interval, but they also have to interpret what that means, right? How to calculate minimum. So, and so on, perform various hypotheses. So they have to formulate and test an hypothesis, one sample and two samples. You have to use Excel to perform chi-square test of independence. Have to use Excel to perform analysis of variance. You have to use critical value approach and p-value approach. And when you conduct linear regression, use Microsoft Excel to perform this correlation and regression. Test the significance of the slope. Assess the assumptions of linear regression model. Test the significance of correlation coefficient and so on. So one of the questions I posed is, how do I ensure that we have industry connections? Number one, we do have something called Program Advisory Committee. In a program advisory committee, we have representatives from industry. So there may be industry from banking industry, and banking industry there will be from retail, commercial. Then we have financial planners, financial analysts, risk managers, and a variety of people from industry. And then they have the opportunity to look at the courses, the outcomes, what is expected of our students, and then they bring in all the changes that are happening in. And then if a curriculum needs to be changed, curriculum needs to be revamped, revised, we always have that constant interaction between industry and us. through program advisory committee. Then we bring in guest speakers. Guest speakers. I remember long time ago, in 1996, 1997, when I was teaching along with the CEO of IPSR, Professor Dr. Mendes Jacob. He had that vision to bring in guest speakers. He had that vision to bring in this guest speakers at that time. So at that time, even I was in favor of it to bring guest speakers and so on, but I didn't quite understand the relevance. Now I see how important is it. So when guest speakers comes, they talk about the changes happening in the industry, the skills and the competencies and the knowledge that our students or graduates needs be successful in the workplace, so students get that exposure. So we bring in guest speakers. We have information nights organized. No, students don't have to pay for any of these things. Information nights. So if we have recently I hosted an information night on chartered financial analyst, CFA. And chartered financial analysts. There are certified financial planner, chartered business valuation. So there are lots of professional designations. So we provide information nights. Then there are financial literacy week, just to give opportunities about what financial literacy is and so on. We provide mock interview opportunities, finance speaker series, alumni services, institutional research, and so on. So with this institutional research, graduate placement survey, we see overall employment is 90% and full-time employment 72% and so on. So what I meant to say is these changes are happening, not in undergraduate program. I want to show you this. We need an outcomes-based approach to doctoral education for PhD. This is a University Affairs. It's actually a magazine for the Canadian Association of University Teachers. It is their magazine. One of the professors are saying that we need an outcomes-based approach to doctoral education. And the reason they are saying is no more than 25% of the PhD graduates are securing tenure track positions. That means are becoming full-time professors after their graduation. So in other words, only 1/5 of those end up working in research-intensive institutions. So there needs to be some training for them as well. So what they are saying is revisions of PhD curricula across the board must be provided. So again, you can see how this the wind is moving and the changes are happening. So I had been talking about all these revision of courses and so on. But sometimes we don't know whether our teaching methodologies or the approaches that we are using are effective. How do we know? So generally, we will have to wait for 4 or 5 years for our students to graduate. They start working, and we cannot then ask that question, right? So there is an opportunity while you are teaching. There is an opportunity for you to ensure that the goals of outcome-based are met. How? Using scholarship of teaching and learning. This is a scholarly approach to understanding and improving your teaching and learning practices. So you made a change in your teaching, in your classroom. Do you want to know whether it is effective? You can do a research in your classroom. And how can you do this, and how confident or how competent you are? Because don't forget, as teachers, we do have expertise in at least 2 areas. 1, teaching and learning. 2, in our subject matter discipline. So in scholarship of teaching and learning, we are bringing in both these things together and doing that research to understand what is happening in your classroom. So it's a scholarly approach to understand and improve teaching and learning practice, a systematic study of teaching and learning processes, often conducted by faculty members with higher education institutions. So again, scholarship of teaching and learning, this is an entirely a vast topic. I know I cannot do justice to it, but I really want only one thing. Just put the bug in your ear. Do a little bit of research. Understand what scholarship of teaching and learning is. If you want to take a break from your discipline specific research, if you want to do a research in as a teacher, as an instructor, as a professor, if you want to see what is happening in your classroom, if you want to see whether the experiences that students are having, is it a fruitful experience? This is an opportunity. So SOTL, or Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, invites professionals to examine their own classroom practice, record their successes and failures, and ultimately share their experiences so that others may reflect on their findings and build upon teaching and learning. So you are doing a research from your own classroom. So you have to get permission, research ethics or whatever, and you are doing research within your classroom. A very simple example, something that I am interested to work on. And I am thinking, I even had a discussion with Dr. Mendes Jacobs, Sunil Jobser, and so on. One of the area that I'm interested to see is what are the misconceptions in statistics about this, students, first year, or first student who is taking statistics course for the first time. So it's an opportunity for me to know what is happening in my classroom, maybe the language that you use, or knowing unconsciously or unconsciously what I'm portraying in my classes, whether it is leading to some misconceptions. That's an opportunity for me to find out what is happening in the classroom. If three different institutions are doing the same thing, that is an opportunity for us to collaborate, to share our successes, to share our failures, and to reflect on the other similar experiences from other institutions, and of course, build upon the teaching and learning process. Folks, primarily we are teachers, and our focus is our students and the future of our students. So some of the objectives of SOTL is to improve student learning by finding better and more engaging ways to teach. We conduct scholarly examination of what takes place inside the classroom and asking questions and collecting evidence on the effectiveness of the different teaching methods. If you are using, let's say you are teaching two classes, same subject, and in one class you are using discussion method, in the other one you are using problem-based learning, see how the differences are, and see which is more effective. And why is it more effective? Again, this helps us to improve not only our own teaching, but it also helps others build on their teaching and learning experiences. And of course, make sure to make these results of this analysis available to others by publication. There are several journals specifically dedicated to SOTL. So I encourage you to do a quick Google research and then see what those journals are. Maybe at another time we will have the opportunity to talk about SOTL and just share some ideas. In the end, if I want to summarize outcome-based education with a quote, I would say this: education is not the filling of a pail. That was what we were doing all this week, right? As a teacher, we have a list of topics. We are just teaching, and and just finishing our syllabus, finishing our topics, and then moving on to the next class or next year. But it's not the filling of a pail. It is the lighting of a fire. It is we are igniting that passion for learning, igniting that passion for the subject, igniting the passion to be excellent contributors to the community. That is something that our madam also mentioned. She said, we want to make sure that people contribute to the community. That is what she mentioned in her inaugural speech. That is what outcome-based education is. Not filling of a pail, but igniting, but the lighting of a fire. So thank you everyone for your patient listening. I know I took the entire time. That was, but you were patient, and I really thank you for this. If we have some time, we can certainly take some questions. If I know, as I tell my students always, if I know, I will tell you. If I don't know, I can find some answers. All right. So you can turn on your mic and then say, or you can even write it in the chat, but I don't know whether I can see the chat, but let me see.
If you have any questions for Dr. Thomas, please post them in the chat and he will take it.
Oh, okay. This is Anaka's question. It's a great question. Thank you, Anaka, for that question. As far as institute industry collaborations are concerned, institute stands to gain a lot from industry collaboration, like expert lectures, internship opportunities for students, etc. But what does the industry have to gain from this collaboration? This is where approaching any industry as a faculty for collaboration gets tricky. We would love to hear your thoughts on this. First of all, don't forget, when you are helping develop students, according to the needs of industry, you are producing graduates where they can readily employ your graduates. One good thing, something that we always hear about our institution is our students are fast learners, and from day one, they are successful in their job. Why? Because they are exposed to the industry. They know exactly what it is. So once they are employed, the employers don't have to spend extra time, extra money to educate them. They are already educated. They know exactly what the industry wants. They exactly what they want. They know. So this is what the industry gains in the industry gains from us. So Anaga, hopefully I answered your question. Dr. Prasad said, does OBE that much fit to science subjects rather than technological subjects with respect to experiential learning? And as most of the students not interested towards traditional sciences, what do we have to do to create interest? Sorry, I missed that. What do we have to create interest towards traditional science subjects like maths, physics, and chemistry? Again, you know what? That is always the challenge. That was actually the challenge that we were saying, right? As subjects like maths and physics and chemistry and economics and so on, we always thought it is very difficult to instill interest in our students. But when there is active learning, students will automatically get in rather than providing them the definition, whatever it is, think about a definition that inertia, for example, in the case of physics, inertia, what do they understand by inertia? How can they demonstrate inertia? So when everybody is getting opportunities, then they try to reflect on what inertia is, and and that brings meaning to their learning. So again, it needs a lot of thought, right? Once we shift towards outcome-based education, those are some of the initial thoughts that we have to do. It's quite a bit of work at the start, right? As a physics group or a science group or an engineering technology group or a mechanical engineering group, you instructors come together, brainstorm on what can be used, and then share the thoughts and see what can be applied, and then slowly develop. It's not going to be an overnight transformation. It takes time, it takes energy, and it takes commitment. Hopefully that answered your question. What types of real-world problem-solving activities are incorporated? How students are evaluated in problem-solving skills? What assessment methods do you measure competencies in? How do assessments at NATE reflect real-world performance? How is feedback from the assessment provided? Okay, it's a lot of questions. Wow, Ganesh sir, it's a lot of questions. So what we do is, again, the focus is exit outcomes, right? What can students do out there? So as a financial planner, what do they do? So what can we provide? So a case study can be provided with the different scenarios included, and then ask students to develop a financial plan to help this particular family. Same way, if it is a statistic, if in case of statistics, provide a data set and don't ask them to calculate a mean or a standard deviation or skewness or kurtosis. Tell them to interpret data based on the shape of the data. So what strategies would they use? Then why did they use those strategies? So this is an opportunity for them to think on, okay, what are all the available techniques? Which one is more appropriate? Okay, this is a right-skewed distribution, heavily right-skewed distribution. So can I go with a mean? Or is there a better measure that I use? Will the standard deviation be the appropriate measure to describe the scatteredness? Or is there anything else? Is non-parametric test good or parametric test good? So these are some of the questions we encourage them to develop while teaching. So the questions, the assessments, the in-class problems that we solve, all must be related to this. Okay. Okay, Professor Sangeeta's question is excellent. How can outcome-based education be effectively implemented in higher education until the primary and middle level education have focused on it? That is a fantastic question. Sangeeta ma'am, it's a good question, and there is no right or wrong answer for it, right? I don't have a single short answer for it. But rather than blaming them in our institution, how can we bring that changes? And moreover, as professors, as an institution, how can you influence the secondary education scenario? How can you influence the others in secondary education scenario? Or primary and middle school, middle level education? How can you influence it? Only if change happens somewhere, there will be some sort of ripple effects. If we are still maintaining the status quo, nothing is going to change. So can we be that little change? So that is the question. All right. Any questions? So I think that is all the questions that I have. Once again, thank you very much for your time, your energy. So I will probably leave if there is no other questions. Is it a fair thing to do?
Yes, I think so. I don't see any more. There's one question. Apart from assignments, tests, seminar, what other classroom activities you follow in Canada? That's one question.
Say that again.
Apart from assignments, tests, seminars, what other classroom activities you follow in Canada?
Okay, that is, remember I mentioned about a list of student-centered teaching that we use. More, we have a problem-based learning. We have case studies. Again, guest speakers. We do have opportunity for students to interact with industry. And then a simple example, very easy to use, is think, pair, and share. So it helps students with the problem solving skills. It helps students to collaborate. It helps students to communicate. It provides all those opportunities. So little changes that we can do in our classroom really helps. So this is something that we use every day, every time. Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
So I think,
yeah, thank you for that wonderful session.
So everyone have a wonderful rest of the evening. Or good night, and hopefully our paths will cross some other time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, please note everybody, tomorrow we will have the session on underlying threats of OBE, ChatGPT, and AI tools. This will be taken by Dr. Suresh Nambudri. It will be at the same time from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So please do join us for that session as well. And please note everybody, our registration for LMS is still open. I've already put the details there. What you need to do is you need to pay processing fee of 400 rupees to the account details that I put in the chat. And you need to send the screenshot to the WhatsApp number. Now, all these presentations slides will be there as videos in the LMS. So if you missed any of them, that will be available in the LMS. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you for your time, and thank you for joining this session. We will see you tomorrow for the session by Dr. Suresh Nambudri. Thank you all. Have a pleasant evening.